didn't see you there. Did you get in? Don't worry about it. I'm glad that you're here today as we cook with Pastor Zach. See, today we'll be making special brownies. Not Snoop Dogg brownies. If that's what you thought, you're sinning. Now let me tell you a little bit more about these special brownies. See, I like to call them compromise brownies. Let me tell you how I got to that name, compromise brownies. See, I was hanging out with two of my best of pals, Pastor Noah from our North Knox campus and Pastor Tommy from our Farragut campus. And they were saying, Zach, we want to go see this new rad movies. You've heard Pastor Noah. He likes to say lit with his elbow pads, right? So they were like, we want to go see it. I said, guys, it's got some stuff in it, right? It's got some profanity, got some violence. And Tommy's like, Zach, it's just a little bit, man. It can't do that much damage, right? It's not that bad. I said, okay, fellas, here's what we're going to do. You guys go see the movie, come over to my house after, and we'll eat some brownies. Because I'm a good boss. I'm a good loving friend. So they went, saw the movie, had a great time. They came over for some brownies. And see, the movie just had a little bit of compromise in it. So I compromised their brownies just a little bit. What I did is I went to my neighbor's house and got just a little bit of poo. Not a ton of poo, just some poo. And I compromised the brownie mix. And I wanted them to see if they cared if it was compromised just a little bit. That was the question I asked them after they ate them.
Oh, we started with poop brownies. This is going to be a good series, folks. Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Man. So we start tonight at FP Students a brand new series called Just One More. That's the official title, but I have to confession to make tonight to you guys. I voted for a different title. I got shut down. I wanted this whole series to be titled Poop Brownies, okay? Poop emoji and brownies. I got shut down. So the official title, Just One More. But when you think about Just One More, if you want to think about poop brownies, go ahead, okay? Go ahead. We would love that. This is going to be a fun series, but we're talking about compromise. Because if we compromise on the wrong things in life, if we let some of the wrong things into our life and we say it's okay to get just a little bit, eventually they're going to break us down. So we want to be careful about the things that we compromise. Man, poop brownies, that was awesome. It's just a little bit, just a little bit, right? So think about this. Have you ever said this, or have you ever heard someone say this? Right? Have you ever heard anyone say these sort of things? They'll say this, is it really that bad? Is it really that bad if I do this? Or is it technically wrong? Like they find something that goes, is that technically wrong? Is that technically a sin? Or what if I only do it once? What if I only do it once and I don't hurt anybody, right? What if I only do it one time? I'm not hurting anybody. How about this? Have you ever found someone saying, how far is too far? Have you asked any of those questions? Raise your hand if you've ever asked any of those questions, even if it's just yourself, right? Be honest, I've asked those questions. I think most of us have asked those questions. Those are questions, though, guys, that lead us down a road of what I would like to call compromise. They lead us down a road of we go, okay, what's acceptable, what's not? And essentially, we're asking this question. We may not be asking about poop, and we may not be asking about brownies, but we're asking how much is too much? How much poop can I get in my brownies before I notice it tastes different? Right? Now, let me just show of hands. Let's do a little bit of a survey here. How many of you guys, if I made some awesome brownies, I told you I'd give you like a dozen brownies for free, and they have just a little bit of poop in them, how many of you guys would chance it? You'd eat the brownies. That's way too many hands. Oh my gosh. How many of you guys would go, absolutely no, I don't want any poop, not even a little bit in my brownies? All right, that's most of you. Some of you guys are crazy. Some of you guys are absolutely crazy. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Satan, the enemy, talks to us and he does this. He's not going to throw your biggest temptation at you. He's not going to throw the kitchen sink at you. He's going to throw just a little bit at you and see if you'll compromise. Because here's what the enemy knows. If he can get you to compromise just a little bit today, and just a little bit tomorrow, and just a little bit the next day, and just a little bit the next day, eventually you'll walk right off the cliff. Eventually you'll have compromised way more than you wanted to compromise. You'll end up in a place that you didn't want to be. Anybody ever been there before where you all of a sudden you ended up in a bad place and you're going, how in the world did I get here? The answer is compromise. A little bit of compromise. So we want to talk to you guys about that, and we want to have a conversation during this series about how the enemy how the enemy is going to fight us and get us to try to compromise, and where are the places where we're just going to decide we're not going to compromise. Because the enemy's not going to throw the kitchen sink at you. He's not going to get your biggest temptation. He's going to try to chip away at you one thing at a time. So let's think about some of the places that we compromise by saying, title of the series, just one more. Just one more. I don't know if any of the rest of you guys do this. I do this really bad. My wife hates it, okay? Super hates it. I set like 12 alarms every morning, okay? I'm a heavy sleeper. I want to get up early. I want to get up early so I can work out. I want to get up early so I can have a good quiet time because I know my whole day is set up by the way I start it. But in order for me to get up at 4:45, I need alarms to start going off at like 4 a.m. I set 12 of them, and I snooze every single one of them, and about 4:45, it's going off every 30 seconds. That'll wake me up, right? And every time I hear that, like Candace is turning over, and she's like, why don't you stop it? And every time I'm just like, just one more. Just one more, right? Until the snooze is going crazy. Any fellow snoozers with me? You snooze till that button falls off? Yeah, I do that. All right, now, here's another place where I don't know about you, but I compromise. I compromise with these guys. We'll buy a pack of Oreos, and man, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I'll walk into the pantry and I'll go, I'm just going to get one. One, okay? One, I can handle those calories. Now, let's not talk about the fact that it's like a tenth of my daily calories in one tiny cookie. Doesn't matter, right? I can handle one. I've never eaten just one. I don't know if you've ever eaten just one, but if you do, you have superpowers. So here's what I do. I'll eat one, and then I'll be like, well, a serving size is 3. So I'll eat just one more, and I'll be ahead of the game. And I eat 2, and I feel good about myself because I didn't eat 3. And then I'm like, well, I really need to get my money's worth, full value. I'm eating 3. But I'm going to stop at 3, guys. I'm going to stop at 3. And then 52 Oreos later, the whole thing's gone. There's a bunch of crumbs, and I yell at one of my kids. I pick different ones each time. Why'd you eat all the Oreos? So my wife didn't know it was me, right? And the kids, they just take it in stride. It's great. Now, you may be asking, Pastor Jeff, why were you so specific about the amount of Oreos? Well, when you've eaten the whole package enough times, you get to know that there's 52 in the double-stuffed party size box, right? It's a problem. I eat all the Oreos. I'm going to give those Oreos to somebody at the end of the night, all right? Because I don't want to take them home. I'll eat the whole thing. Eat the whole thing. Some of you guys may get me on this, right? Here's a place where I've been compromising a lot lately. I know, I want to get up early. I want to work out. I want to have my quiet time. I want to be a man of discipline. There's a lot I want to do, and I know I need to go to bed early to do that. But in my house, we have a problem that keeps us from going to bed early all the time because we'll start playing this little game called Fortnite. And I don't know about you, but me and my boys, we do this thing. It's like, just one more, just one more. Candace is screaming, they've got to go to bed. And then I'm like, just one more by myself, right? And I'm playing Fortnite. Next thing I know, it's 2:30 a.m. My alarm's going to start going off so I can snooze it in like 2 hours, right? Man, it's a bad deal. And I don't get any sleep, and I feel terrible because I compromise. We all compromise on some things. Some of you, you're compromising on this. Some of you are compromising on movement because you're like, just one more day, I'll register. Just one more day, I'll register tonight, I'll register later. How many of you guys know that tonight, that compromise is going to hurt you? If you don't register by midnight, you're going to miss out on that $99. Who's going to movement in the room? Let me hear you. He's going to movement in the room. Whoa, I love it. Hey, we're just starting May, and we're going to rock it past 400 tonight. This is going to be the first time for movement we've ever had over 1,000. It's going to be the new biggest event that we do. It's going to be incredible. Don't wait, guys. Don't push that back. And as a matter of fact, I want to do this. Who didn't get a hat last year for movement, but you really wanted one? You're really upset. We ordered a few for you guys. So here's what I'm going to do. Do not kill each other over these. Just right there. All right, I'm not rewarding you for getting out of your seats, guys. Come on. Oh, no. That slipped out of my hand. All right. Here's the deal. If you didn't get a hat but you want one, let me see your hand because I need to talk to you for just a second. Can I take a quick break? I'm going to hit the pause button on the message, okay? Pause. Let's come right up here in the pause. It is right now 7:33. The first person who is time-stamped registered for movement after 7:33 will get the last free black movement hat. So the only people I'm giving permission to get your phone out is if you texting your mama going, register me right now, movementconf.com, movementconf.com. All right. Hey, one other thing for you guys before we move on, before I hit the pause button and we resume and we're playing, right? We've got these cards. We got these cards. They say movement on one side, got the information on that. SKO on the other side for our summer kickoff. For those of you that don't know, we're in something, a month called Movement Month, where we're basically throwing a party all throughout May because movement's coming. Movement's going to be here in the summer, so we're throwing that. That's why we have Popsicle Night tonight. For those of you that don't know, next week for Movement Month, we're actually going to be giving away free pop sockets, brand new pop sockets, everybody in the building. We got a student takeover where our students are going to lead us in everything, even the message on May 16th. And then on May 23rd, free shirts for everybody in the building, right? So, and then May 30th, SKO. Here's what I want you to do. When you leave, we're about to get back in the message. You with me? You with me? Everybody looking? When you leave, I'm going to ask you to grab 2 or 3 of these cards, and I want you to start inviting some friends, not only to Movement, not only to SKO, but invite them every single week to be a part of our family. If you have some people who you know need to be loved, need to have some fun in this family, they need to know Jesus, bring them, invite them every single week during Movement Month. But I'm going to give you guys these. We're going to give them for free tonight because we just want you to invite some of your friends, right? Can we do that? Can we do that? Awesome. All right, so now we're going to hit play. Back into the message. There we go. We don't want to compromise, but we all compromise. We all compromise on something. Have you guys ever noticed that every time someone says just one more, it's never just one more? Every time we say just one more, it ends up just one more 22 times, right? We consistently say just one more, but compromise. Guys, compromise is funny that way because it never feels bad in the moment. It never feels like it's too much in the moment, but little by little we veer off and we end up in a place we never wanted to be. That's what compromise does to us. We think we're okay and then we're not. Has anybody in the room, now don't freak out, I'm not spoiling anything, but has anybody in the room seen the new Infinity Wars movie? All right. Who hasn't seen the movie but wants to? All right. So here's the deal. Incredible movie. I had a student, one of your peers, hey, eyes up. We had a student last week over the weekend. They came to me. I'm not going to name them, but they said, hey, Pastor Jeff, tell me a little bit about Infinity Wars. I'm dying to see it. I haven't seen it yet. And I said, I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm not that guy. I don't want to be a jerk. And she said, hey, don't tell me too much about it. Tell me just a little bit about it. Don't like ruin the whole thing, but just a little bit. And I looked at her and I said, for real, if I tell you just a little bit, I'll ruin the whole thing, right? If I tell you just a little bit, I'm going to ruin the whole thing because everything I could think to tell her would ruin the plot line of this incredible movie. But she wanted to know. She wanted me to spoil it for her. And I told her, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to spoil it for you. Catch this. How many of you guys, by the way, just help me out. I really like to hear from you during these messages. I want to get you involved. How many of you guys hate spoilers? You hate it when people spoil. All right. So let's check this out. Check this out. This is big. Sin and compromise. Sin and compromise are the spoilers of life. Sin and compromise are the spoilers of life. Tell me just a little bit. I want to see the movie so bad and I haven't been there. Tell me just a little bit. And all I got to do is tell you just a little bit and you go, you jerk, I hate you. You ruined the whole movie. Right? Sin and compromise are the same way. We go, I'll just compromise a little bit. It'll be okay. It won't hurt anybody. I'll just do it a little bit. It's just one time. And the next thing we know, man, a whole season of life is ruined because we compromised. A whole season of life is ruined because we compromised. Guys, I watched friends in high school constantly ruin a whole season of life because they compromised one time. I can't tell you the amount of friends that, man, had just something crazy happen, whether it ended up in having a baby or getting arrested, all kinds of things, one time. One compromise, one thing, because you never know when that compromise is going to take you farther than you want to go and keep you longer than you wanted to stay. Sin and compromise are the spoilers of life. Now, 1 Corinthians 5:6, the Apostle Paul talks about this, but since they didn't have movies, he doesn't call it spoilers. Here's how he explains it. He says this, Your boasting, your bragging's not good. So if you didn't know that, when you brag, people think you're a jerk. Stop being that guy, all right? Stop being that girl. Your boasting is not good. Don't you know that a little yeast leavens the whole batch of dough? So Paul's using something they would know. They all had bread, and they had unleavened bread, which was no yeast, and it was like a flat piece of paper, right? And then you had bread that had leaven in it, yeast, and it would rise and it would grow. They said just a little bit of yeast gets in the whole batch of dough. Here's what Paul was saying. Just a little bit of compromise. Just a little bit of sin. You never know when that little bit of sin is going to compromise the whole thing. And the next thing you know, guys, seriously, I've been there. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. When I smoked my first joint, I had no clue that I was going to end up addicted to drugs. I had no clue. When I went to that first party with my friends and drank alcohol for the first time, I had no clue that I was going to end up on house arrest and, man, having to pee in a cup like twice a week for a year. I had no clue. I didn't know that compromise was going to hurt me like that. Galatians 5:7-9, Paul says something very similar. He says, listen to this, you were running a good race. You were running a good race. Some of you, you understand this. You were doing really well. God was blessing you. Things in life were going really well, and then you stepped into stupid, and they stopped going well all of a sudden, right? I was running a good race, and then I compromised just a little bit, and it felt like life fell apart. He said, you were running a good race. Who cut in on you to keep you from obeying the truth? It was the enemy that cut in on you. You were running a good race, and he didn't want you to finish that race. You were doing so good. God had an incredible plan for you. He still does, but you were living in it. But who cut in on you? He says that kind of persuasion does not come from the one who calls you. It comes from the enemy. He says this, he quotes, a little yeast works through the whole batch of dough. Here's what Paul said. You were running such a good race until you compromised. You were doing so good. God was using you so well until you compromised, and a little bit of compromise took you out. Just a little bit of poop in the brownies. Just a little bit. I made them with all the other ingredients. They're good brownies. Double chocolate. They got the fudge in them, right? And then they got the poop. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of compromise. Just a little bit of sin. Guys, it can get in us. Would you treat it differently if it was a little bit of poison? What if I told you that every time, and I'm not, but let's just say hypothetically, that I told you every time you drink a Coke, that you could have all the Coke you want, right? You could drink all the sodas that you want, but every time you drank one, it was going to have just a little bit of poison in it. And I told you, it's not going to kill you now, but it'll kill you 20 years earlier than you should. It's got a little bit of poison in it. You're going to die 20, 25 years earlier. How many of you would still drink Coke without at least thinking about it and going, I don't know, maybe I want to limit that? Yeah, a couple of crazy people. That's what I thought, right? They plan on dying before 50 anyway. They're the adventurers, right? We wouldn't do that. Why do we do it with sin? Why do we do it with sin? So here's what we got to decide tonight. Y'all with me? We have to decide this. We have to decide if we're going to live a life of spoilers or if we're going to wait for the special scenes. Are we going to live a life of spoilers, of compromise, or are we going to wait on the special scenes? If you guys are Marvel fans in the house, you know this. You never leave before that final scene. Because after the credits, they're going to roll the best scene. That's going to tell you what's going to happen in the next movie. And if you're a dum-dum and you leave, you're going to miss it. Everybody stays through the whole deal waiting on the credits for that one last scene. Are you going to live a life of spoilers or are you going to live a life for the special scenes? You have to decide. God has some special scenes for your life. He wants to take, guys, I promise, God wants to do something in your life that is so good you can't even imagine it. You couldn't dream of it. And the enemy wants to spoil it. Are we going to live a life of spoilers or are we going to live a life of special scenes? In Mark 3:23-27, Jesus says this. He tells this story. So Jesus called them over to him and he began to speak to them in parables. So he's telling them this story and he says this. How can Satan drive out of Satan? The reason he says that is because the Pharisees, the religious people, just called Jesus the Son of God, Satan. He's like, you guys are crazy. They said, no, you're Satan. That's how you're doing all this. You're a devil. That's how you're doing all this. He says, okay, how can Satan drive out Satan? Because he just cast out a demon. He says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, it cannot stand. Some of you guys know this because you had a really good friendship group, and then one of your friends got mad at another friend, and all of a sudden, none of you are friends now. You understand a kingdom divided against itself can't stand. But he go back. Sorry, I wasn't done with that. By itself, that kingdom cannot stand. If a house is divided against itself, it can't stand either. And if Satan opposes himself and is divided, he cannot stand. His end has come. In fact, no one can enter a strong man's house. Catch this, is so good. No one can enter a strong man's house without first tying him up. Without first tying him up, then he can plunder the strong man's house. He can take, all the stuff he needs, but he's got to tie him up first. Here's what Jesus is telling in this parable. Here's what he wants us to understand. What he wants you to understand is this. If you're compromising, you're a kingdom divided against yourself. If you are a son or a daughter of Jesus, you've given your life to Christ, and you're compromising with too much sin, it's like a kingdom divided against itself. Eventually, that thing's going to fall. Because there's two natures at war within you, right? But he also says this. He says, if you want to enter a strong man's house, and here's what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about Satan, the enemy of this world, being the strong man. And Jesus is saying this, I'm about to walk up in his house. I'm going to tie him up. I'm going to call him a wimp to his face. I'm going to take everything he has because my kingdom's coming. I'm not going to let this hate. I'm not going to let this racism. I'm not going to let all this crap in the world stay. Eventually, I'm coming in. I'm going to tie that man up. I'm going to take the enemy out. That's what he's talking about. But he says this. You can't do that with a strong man unless you first tie him up. Some of us, we're not helping Jesus tie up the strong man. We're the strong man that thought he was strong. The strong woman thought she was strong, that's all of a sudden tied up and enslaved. We're tied up and enslaved because we compromise. And we compromise when we got tied up before we realized it. Did you guys know this? I want you to catch this. This is huge for tonight. Compromise with sin will compromise your future. Compromise with sin compromises our future. Think about the dreams you have for your life. Enough compromise with sin will always compromise your future. It will compromise those dreams. It will keep you from reaching them. And if you don't catch anything else tonight, I want you to catch this because this is big. We have to make that choice to live the life of spoilers or special scenes. Here's a better way to say it after talking about the strong man. Either you're binding the enemy or the enemy's binding you. Either you're tying up and taking captive the enemy and saying, you don't hold any sway over my life, or he's tying you up and going, you have no authority in your own life. Either you're binding the enemy or he is binding you. What choice will you make? If you compromise, you're letting him turn those ropes around you. So I need a couple of people. Let me see. Hunter Doffler, go ahead and come up here. I need two more people to help me with this. Let me see. I need two people. Go ahead. Come on up. Noah, come on up. I need you to help me. All right. Come up, Riley, and I need somebody a little older right there. Go ahead and come up. You can come up. All right. Just come over here. Now, here's what we're going to do. This is going to go on the side while I'm finishing. Hunter, come here. Hunter's a pretty strong guy. He plays football. He's a junior, about to be a senior. He's a man, somewhat, right? Yeah. All right, he's a man. So he's strong. Now, Pastor Noah, can we just wrap him in like 2 strands of toilet paper? Like, we're going to tie him up. We're going to tie him up with some TP because we're real here, okay? We're going to tie him up with some TP. All right. One of y'all just needs to, like, hold it right there on his arm. Right there. All right. Noah, if you could go faster, that'd be appreciated. I can't talk English. You can't roll toilet paper. All right. There we go. Now, Hunter, can you break that? Can you just, yes. Okay, that was easy. Now listen. You have a cheering section for breaking 1 strand of toilet paper. That's terrible. All right. Think about this. That toilet paper represents just a little more. That toilet paper represents 1 or 2 compromises. But I want you to think about this as we talk about compromise for the rest of the night. As we talk over the next 10 minutes, I want you to think about this. What happens? What would happen? Would it change who he is and what he can do in life if he keeps compromising? And every time they go around him, so go ahead and start. You guys are going to help. Every time they go around him, that's a compromise. Now, you guys are going to keep listening to me preaching. Don't get totally distracted. But every time you see that, I want you to think about him compromising. We got multiple people up here to help us because they're going to get dizzy, and we don't want them to get drunk and walk right off stage, okay? So that's why we got multiple people up here. We're going to see what happens when you keep compromising. Now, here's the problem. We're going to choose daily whether we want to be strong or enslaved, right? We're going to choose whether we're going to bind the enemy or he's going to bind us. In Matthew 4, we see the temptation of Jesus. In Matthew 4, Jesus is tempted 3 times. Last week, we talked about Jesus being baptized. He came up out of the water, and God the Father said, I love you because you're my son. I'm proud of you, right? I love you, and I'm proud of you. Right after that, Jesus goes into the desert for 40 days, and he is fasting. He's not eating, and then he gets tempted. And here's some things we find as he gets tempted. We find 3 compromise catchphrases. And I want you guys to listen to these because these are compromise catchphrases that you and I have said. And when you hear yourself saying these catchphrases, I want you to know you're on the verge of compromise. Maybe you're already there. So here's what he says. He starts with this one, I deserve this. The catchphrase of I deserve this is what the enemy's trying to get Jesus to say. And here's what he says in Matthew 4, 1-4. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry, right? Then the tempter came to him and said, if you are the Son of God, if you're who you say you are, tell these stones to become bread. And Jesus answered, it is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes out of the mouth of God. Here's what he said. If you're the Son of God, turn these stones into bread, because if you're the Son of God, you deserve food. Why wouldn't your dad feed you? Why wouldn't your dad take care of you? If your dad's not going to take care of you, you deserve it. You're the Son of God. Go ahead and do it. I deserve this. But Jesus knew that God had called him into that wilderness not to eat for a reason. He said, I'm not going to compromise just because I'm hungry. I'm not going to compromise because I deserve this, because God's calling me to something better. When you say this, guys, when you utter the compromise catchphrase, I deserve this, you're on the verge of compromise, right? Number 2, I've got this. I've got this. Matthew 4, 5-7 is where we find this one. I've got this. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down. For it is written in Scripture, God will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You can't be hurt. But Jesus answered him, it's also written, don't put the Lord your God to the test. Are you guys okay over there? I just hear a lot of giggling. Are you okay? All right, Riley, keep rolling. We got a lot of TP to get around there, all right? So here's what he says. He's talking to him. He's talking to him, and he says this, hey, you're not going to get hurt. Why don't you show us who you really are? Why don't you prove to everybody you've got this? Why don't you prove to everybody you really are the Son of God? Why don't you prove to everybody that you really are telling the truth, that you can do these miracles? Why don't you tell everybody that you are who you say you are? And he pushes him. So first of all, it was the compromise catchphrase of, I deserve this. Second of all, it was the compromise catchphrase of, hey, I've got this. Anybody ever said that before? I've got this. I can handle it. I know other people have messed up at a party, but I'm not going to. I know that other people have messed up in this situation, but I'm not going to. I've got this. I'll show you what kind of Christ follower I am. Anytime you utter that phrase, you're on the verge of failure because you've already compromised. See, the people who don't compromise, it's not they don't compromise because they're so strong. They don't compromise because they don't utter that phrase. They know, I don't always have this. I'm just going to make sure that I don't get taken out. The last one, and this is big. Everybody, eyes on me. I know there's a lot going on over there, but eyes on me. The last one is so important because this is never the one that the enemy would lead with. If he led with it, you'd say, no, man, you're so stupid. If the enemy gave you this as soon as you were saved, you'd be like, no, I don't believe that. God, it's too good. He waits until you've bought into the other little lies. You've compromised little bit by little bit, and then he hits you with this one. I tried God's way, and it didn't work. I tried. I prayed, and he didn't answer. I asked. I didn't find. Man, I did everything I could. I tried doing it God's way, and it didn't work out. When really God said that, hey, sometimes it's going to take a lot of patience. You're going to have to keep asking, keep knocking, keep seeking. You're going to have to keep going, and we'll quit right before God's going to do something big because we'll buy into this lie. I tried God's way, and it didn't work. And here's how we see this in Matthew 4, 8-11. Matthew 4, 8-11, again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. He said, all this I will give to you if you will bow down and worship me. God had already given Jesus everything, but he hadn't given it to him yet. He said, it's yours, but it's not yours yet. And here's what the enemy did. The enemy said, hey, Jesus, God promised he hadn't come through. You tried it God's way and it didn't work. Why don't you do it my way? That's the compromise catchphrases. So students, I want you to think about those compromise catchphrases real quick. I deserve this. I've got this. I tried God's way, but it didn't work. And I want all eyes on me, all eyes on me. Which one of those catchphrases are you using? Which one of the compromised catchphrases are you using? I want you to just close your eyes everywhere where you're at so that you can focus. Everybody close your eyes real quick. You guys don't close your eyes. Keep rolling, right? You guys close your eyes. I want you to think through your life, and I want you to say this simple prayer if you don't have something come in your mind. I want you to think about where am I compromising, where I know I'm compromising. And if you can't think of anything, I want you to say a simple prayer. God, show me where I'm compromising. I just want you to think and listen for a second. Show me where I'm compromising. If you know right now where you're sitting that you are compromising in an area of sin, and you're letting a little bit of sin, a little bit of the world, a little bit of the devil getting into you, if you know I'm compromising, just raise your hand. Just say, I'm compromising. It's most of the room. I'm compromising. Hands down. I want you to look at me. Everybody look up. If you walk out of the room and all you've done is acknowledge I'm compromising, you'll compromise before you finish the night. But the way you'll stop compromising, the way that you'll begin to bind the strong man, the way you'll begin to take your life back and live into what God's got for you, to live His best for you, the way you're going to do that, students, is for those of you that are brave enough to tell somebody in the room. I don't care if it's another student. I don't care if it's your small group leader. Tell somebody before you leave tonight, this is where I'm compromising. You may say, hey, I'm compromising by looking at porn and saying it's not going to hurt anybody, knowing it may affect my relationships long term. You may say, I'm compromising by, just substance abuse, because I think it's not really going to hurt anybody. I'll be able to stop whenever I want, not realizing that people are in addiction every single day who are fighting out of that because when they tried to stop, they couldn't. You may say, I'm compromising in a relationship. I'm in a relationship that's not healthy, and I know it, but I'm staying in it because I'm scared of what the other side would look like. I don't know what your compromise is. It could be one of thousands of things. But if you will tell somebody else, hey, I'm not perfect, here's where I'm compromising. Find someone you trust. Here's where I'm compromising. Will you call me out when I compromise like that again? I'm telling you, when you got loving people around you who'll go, hey, don't put that poop in your brownie. Guys, it'll change. It will radically change your life. You need somebody who knows where you're compromising, who will say, don't put that poop in your brownie. I want you to look, everybody look at your neighbor on this side. And I want you to just say, don't put that poop in your brownie. Look at your neighbor on this side. Stay with me. Look at your neighbor on this side. Say, don't put that poop in your brownie. All right, eyes up. Guys, that's funny. Listen up. That's funny. But if you'll give somebody in your life real permission to tell you don't put that poop in your brownie, you'll tell somebody where you're compromising and let them hold you accountable, I promise it's going to change your life because it's going to help you to defeat some strongholds in your life you never thought you could. Now, every strand of TP is more compromise. When we had just a little bit, toilet paper's not very strong. He could break it really easy. But Hunter, right now, just see if you can flex and break it. Just flex. See if you can do it like you did before. Why aren't you breaking the toilet paper, man? Just one more time. It's harder than it looks. Hey, if he keeps trying about 5 or 6 times, he'll eventually break this and shut her out of it. But if we keep rolling and we get past this other pack, he'll never get out. I promise. Tried it on Pastor Noah earlier. He thought he was going to die in here in toilet paper until we cut him out. Guys, just a little more, eventually turns into, I got beat up in my own house. The enemy tied me up, and he's enslaving me because either I am deciding I'm not going to compromise and I'm binding the enemy, or the enemy is binding me through the compromise. Does that make sense? So you guys can go ahead and go off. You can help clean up Hunter, right? Here's what I want to do, though. Here's how we're going to finish. Don't fall over. Eyes on me. We're almost done. Guys, if you raise your hand, please talk to somebody tonight. Don't leave here dealing with the same compromise and not talking to them. If you're friends with someone, say, hey, where are you compromising? You lead first. Say, here's where I'm compromising. Where are you compromising? Talk to each other. But here's the last thing I want to do. We always want to give an opportunity at Faith Promise. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus like we've been talking about, then guys, you probably already feel tied up. You probably already feel a little bit like you're enslaved. So here's what I want you to do. Every head bowed, every eye closed. so that we're focused on what's going on in front of us. And if you've never given your heart to Jesus, you've never began a relationship with the God of this universe, who sent the Son of God, who went to the cross willingly to die for your sin, even though he had no sin. If you've never bent your knee to Jesus and said, hey, come into my life, take my life, do something in me, guys, I'm telling you, he will set you free. You don't have to live in bondage. He'll set you free. So with every head bowed and every eye closed, if you want to give your heart to Jesus tonight, you pray this prayer with me. We're all going to pray together because nobody prays alone. There's nothing special about the prayer, but if you mean it, God will come in. He'll enter your life. Guys, he's going to change everything. So pray with me. Dear Jesus, I know I've sinned. I know I've compromised. I've let stuff into my life that doesn't belong there. Thank you for loving me and for dying for me on the cross, even when I was sinning. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose from the grave so that I could have a relationship with you. Forgive me of my sins. Come into my life and make me whole. Free me, Jesus. You died for me, and now I'll live for you. Everything I have and everything that I am, it's yours. I'm yours. You're my Lord. You're my King. You're in charge. Use me for your kingdom. Thank you for saving me. In Jesus' name we pray. Everybody said, amen. Hey, if that's you, if you gave your heart to Jesus tonight, if I could just ask you, if you gave your heart to Jesus tonight, I want you to take one of the communication cards out in the seat back pocket in front of you. Listen up, guys, listen up. Take that card out, and I just want you to mark on there, I prayed with a pastor to receive Christ, and on your way out tonight, drop it at one of the green tables. Our staff, we want to get that. We want to pray with you. We want to talk to you about next steps. We're not going to bother you, but we do want to walk through that with you. So if you gave your heart to Jesus, please let us celebrate with you. Hey, real quick, take a look at this video, and then we'll finish out for the night.